This is a video to show my workflow in Rhino 8. It is totally unrecorded or unscripted. I haven't practiced this, so it's going to be pretty choppy. Please bear with me. Okay, first thing I would like to do is point out that I'm not using the standard Windows interface here, or the standard Rhino interface rather. If you look up, this is my custom interface that I use all the time, and it works well for me. I don't know if it's the best for everybody, obviously not, but it does work. So there's not a lot of pulling down of menus, selecting things. I've maximized the screen space as much as I can, and I have it going. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is drag in a picture I took of what I'm trying to work with and what I'm trying to do, and we'll talk about that. So I'll go get the picture, and typically the way I'll do it is I'll put the picture on my desktop and I'll just drag it in, and it says picture here, and I'll go okay. And now in Rhino you just click and you drag out to whatever size you like, and I'm not worried about scale or anything. This is nothing more than a reference so that when I'm working I don't forget what things look like, and that's the whole point of this. So first thing I'm going to do is rotate this around, and I like to use the gizmo. Some of the fellows don't like to use it. I do. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this minus 90. And this is how I would be looking at it. It's laying on top of my workbench. And just like I say, reference here. And what we have is, this is a control box that's hooked onto the LED lights that you see laying up in here. Excuse me. And then that in turn connects into the power supply. And my thoughts on this are, I'm actually going to mount the power supply up inside the table. I don't really want a whole bunch of cables running around, stringing around, so I'm going to go ahead and design a bracket, if you will, to hold this in. And what I've decided is that I want it to really lay on this side. In other words, this side along here will be on this surface, and the back that's laying on the bench will butt up against the inside of the aprons. I went ahead and I took some pre-measurements of this, and I've got them written down, so I'm going to go ahead and key this in and start getting it going. And the way I like to work is like this. I'll go ahead and select my rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and work from the 0 point here, and this plug happens to be 87 millimeters by 48 millimeters, and I'm not done here. Actually I am done because I selected a rectangle. So I'm going to click here, and now I'm going to go to a perspective view, and the way I'm going to get the thickness is to click on this little ball, and the thickness of this is 34 millimeters. So now I've got it, and I like to work in the shaded mode. That's just me. The other thing you'll notice as I'm working, I tend not to do a multi-viewport work. I like working single viewport. A lot of people like to work in multis. It's whatever you like to do. All right, so we have the basic plug here that's over there, and we need to rotate it because it's laying on its back, and the way I'm going to mount it, as I mentioned before, is on this face. So I will click on this red circular here, and I'm going to say 90 degrees. So now I've got it up on that 90 degrees. I'm going to get rid of the line that I drew. We don't need it. Click on this, come to my front view, and I'm going to move this up so that the base of it's sitting on 0. It's not really required. I'm kind of a neatnik when it comes to that. And what I need to remember here is that the plug sticks out the front of this. Okay, so the plugs over here that you see right in here, they'll be sticking out the front here somewhere, and I've got to figure out a way to get something around this that'll hold it in. And what I've been thinking about is something along the lines. I'm going to start like this. I'm going to go back to my top view. I'm going to move this down so that it's right there, and back to perspective. I know I do a lot of switching of views. One of the nice tools in Rhino is this little tool right here, duplicate edge. I can come in here and grab edges that I want to duplicate, if I get around them all, select them, and then hit the letter J on my keyboard. That's one of the few shortcuts I use is for joining things, because you do it a lot. So now I got the J joined. I'm going back to the top view, and I'm going to offset this out. And this is purely arbitrary at this point. And I'm going to do a through point option. So in other words, where I drag my cursor is how far out it's going to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this out a pretty good distance, because I think the way this is going to work is I'll be putting some screw holes somewhere along in here to lock this down to the top. And I know that this up here has to come down. So what I do is I select the two nodes, and I'll just bring it back down to where it matches up. So what I've created is this piece that's going to become an apron. And I select the curve, and I would like this apron to be about 3 millimeters thick. So if you look on the screen, you'll see that I've drug it -3. So there's my apron now. And that's what's going to get screwed down. Now I got to come up with a way to keep this thing from falling out, and that's going to be pretty easy. Once again, back to the top. And I'm going to draw a couple of, I'm going to call them strap holders, if you will. Simple rectangle. And I'm just going to locate them somewhere. And I like to make things about 1/8 inch thick for durability typically. And that's that one. So back to the perspective. And I want to drag this up. And now I know it matches, and now I'm going to take it up another 3 millimeters. So that's up 3, and then I'm going to go one more because I want it to fit on there easily. I don't want it to be a pain in the butt. And this is actually 2 pieces because of the way I did it. So I'm going to click the 2 of those and just do a Boolean merge. And now I've got one thing sitting up here. And what I need to do is I need to create a rectangle on the face here and drag it over. So I'm going to go to the front. Here we are. And I'm going to select the rectangle. And that didn't work because I had my center checked here. In other words, if you noticed when I was doing this rectangle, I wasn't paying attention because I'm talking. Selected the rectangle, and when I went here, you'll see this white line appearing, and then it says send. That means it's snapping to the center. I'm going to turn that snap to center off over here, and now I can come here, select, pick up the curve, and I'm going to go to perspective. The curve looks good. Go to the right view because this will show me how far I need to drag it. And by the way, I made this a little too thick, but we'll fix that. I'll show you how I do that. So we got this literally squashed in there, and we don't want to do it. So I'm going to select this one, hide it so I can look underneath here. And when you hold Control-Shift, you can select a surface, and then the gizmo will come up, and I'm going to move that up 1 millimeter. So now when I turn the other guy back on, I've got clearance, as you can see here, so that I don't run into him. Now I don't need to come down the back here, because the way this is going to work, let's get a little better perspective view. I'm going to join these two together, Boolean them together. Then I'm going to go ahead and do a copy C, or Control C, Control V. And I'm going to move the other one down here somewhere to support that. And now what I have is something holding it, and all I got to do is put in a mechanism to keep it from sliding around. And I need to look at my picture here because I've got plugs here, and these plugs stick out a little bit, so I can't really have, if the plugs are on this side, really have that there. I need to move this down a little bit here. Make room for those plugs. And I'm going to take a quick measurement here of the plug on my desk to make sure what I'm doing here. And from the end, I can't be any closer than about 50. I can be about 55 from the left end. So we'll get a measure here and see what we're doing. I know this can all sound very confusing, but you look at it after a while, you start getting it. So I'll pick up here, and I said 55, so I'm going to go to here. I'm actually at 55, so I'm going to move it over just a smidgen to give me some room, maybe 2 millimeters. And this guy is now going to go more towards the end there, so we get more of a support going on, and that'll take care of that. So here's what we got so far. We don't need these two curves at this point, so we can get rid of them, and that takes care of that. Now the only thing we need to do is make this so that it can't fall out of here very easily. And a way to do that is to put like a little stopper down here. So you slide it in from one end, and then the stopper's over here, and the cord's going to be coming out of this end, so it'll have a tendency to pull that way. So all I'm going to do here is go up on the top, and I'm going to go back to solid view so I can see what I'm doing again, or shaded view. And I'm going to put a slight stopper on here, and that's going to be probably about 3 millimeters wide, maybe 12 tall. I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to put it a little towards the back to leave room for my screw hole that I'm going to put in here. And when I go to the perspective, now all I have to do is drag this up just a little bit, and that's what I have. Okay, this is going to be a bear to print when you think about it. I'm going to have to think about how I want to print it and things like that. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and hide the plug so we don't have that. Get rid of this. And I'm going to take a look now. And what I'm looking at now is how I would probably like to print this. And it's not good. You've done enough printing that this is going to be an issue. We're going to have supports. I think the thing to keep in mind is it's buried underneath the tabletop. So if it has marks from the supports, I personally don't care. All right. What I'm going to do is go ahead and grab all of these items, go over here to Boolean Union, select them, and now this has become all one piece. And if I want to fortify it a bit, I can, and it's not really necessary for this, I don't think, but I'm going to go ahead and do it just to illustrate how this works. What I want to do is create some fillets or even chamfers between these edges and this plate so that there's a little bit of support there. So I'm going to come over here and grab my 3D chamfer edges tool, and I'm just going to type in up here on the command line that I would like fillets of about 6 millimeters, which is pretty big. And then I'm going to select the edges to chamfer, and it's going to be this one, this one, this one, this one, roll it around, this one, and this one, and let's see what we get here. So that's what it looks like, and you notice I didn't chamfer the inside, so that's all nice and smooth. So that's the way that works, and we've got that set up. Let's go to the top, and I'm just going to arbitrarily pick out a screw size, fairly small here, screw hole size. So I'll go up and select my circle tool. By the way, while we're up here, I'm on the circle, and you see this little triangle. These are the circles that I typically use the most, so I put them right up front on the bar where I can get at them. All the other methods of drawing a circle are shown in this little pop-out. Now if I find that I'm using one of these a lot, then what I can do is come over and hold the control key over it. It'll say copy link, and I can actually drag it up, and I'm supposed to be able to drag it up and pop it in there. Well, I just locked up for some reason. Uh-oh. Okay, Rhino recovered from the crash very nicely. We didn't lose anything. So let's give this another try, and maybe I'll crash again. You never know. So what we're doing is we're going to try to add a link, and I'm going to use the 3 points to create a circle by holding down the shift and then dragging it up here. And I get a little plus, and this time it worked really nice. So now I've added that onto my toolbar. The only thing I need to do, if I always want it there, is to come over to File and say Save as Template, and this happens to be the Small Objects Millimeters template. Save it there, and I want to replace it, yes. So now that 3-point circle will always appear. Okay, let's just draw a plain old circle. And one of the things I learned a while back is I try not to come here and draw, because you can end up working on a surface you may not want to be on. Instead, I want to control that. So I'll click out somewhere like here and drag out, and I'm going to create about a 4 millimeter circle. And I'm not real concerned about the size, because if I need to, I will drill that out after this is done 3D printing. I don't hesitate to drill things out later in plastic. So what I'm going to do is click it, and I'm going to click on the copy icon up here, and I'm going to turn my center back on because I want to grab the center of the circle. And I'm going to move it out here and say, this is where I want it. I want it pretty close to the edge, so I got room for the head of the screw and all that. And I could do a symmetrical, so yeah, let's do a symmetrical, and then to be nice. So I'm going to go up here, select it, and symmetrical on this system is right here. And I'm going to look for a center point or a midpoint, and I got a center point down here, well, close to it anyway. Let's try it again. Mid, there we go. Shift. I'm holding so that it snaps on the horizontal there. So now I got those two. Now, in this version of Rhino, this is Rhino 8, it has this ability that I can take these two circles, select this little crossbar, drag them down, and it blows the holes through. Once I do that, I'll go ahead and delete those two circles. I don't need them anymore. And then I think just to be nice about this whole thing, I'm going to put a couple of radiuses on a few corners here so we don't have real sharp corners on this thing. And that's going to be these guys, and except I wanted to do a bigger radius than that, so I'm going to do about a 3-inch radius, enter. And there are ways to snap these all at once. I'm just doing it this way because I feel like it today. So there we go. So now I've got nice radii on all the corners. Delete that curve. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and hide this again. I see when we came back, it hadn't already stored the chamfers or done the booleans on this, so we need to do all that. So let's boolean all this together. It does an autosave every X number of seconds, and if it bombs out, you can lose a little bit of information every time, which is obviously what happened here. So I will go ahead to the chamfer again, and the chamfer distance is going to be, I'm going to take that down to 5 this time. It was kind of large last time. I'm going to do that edge, that edge, that edge, that edge. Okay, so there we have it. That's what we're going to do. Looking at this to print it, I think what I'm going to do is print it right in this orientation. I think this is going to be the best way to go. I don't think rolling it over on these edges is going to be any advantage. In fact, it'll probably be worse. You get more supports under here. So we're just going to do it like it is. And we have it this way. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to export it. And this will be going out as an STL. And this will be power supply bracket. And that's where it goes. Okay. So that's my workflow when I'm in Rhino. I like it because I don't have any real procedures that I absolutely have to follow. I can just start wherever I want and go along. Is that the best thing in a commercial or industrial environment? Probably not. But if you're just doing a lot of very creative things, it's the absolute best way to go. So that's going to conclude that. You notice there wasn't a lot of typing up here on the command line. I don't believe in it. I'm more of a menu guy picker. Every now and then on these toolbars, I go through them and I say, you know, I put this up here thinking I would use it, and by God, it's been up there a year now and I haven't used it. An example of that is some of this stuff here, soft editing curves. I don't think I've ever clicked on that thing, so I think I'll be taking it off pretty soon. Fairing curves, I don't use it. Maybe I should. It's Rhino has so many commands. It's easy to get in a rut and forget how many things you can actually do here. But that's my short little video for today of how I work in Rhino. Of course, now that I have this out, what I can do is go ahead and minimize Rhino, and I'm going to start up my bamboo by double clicking on the supply bracket here. Bamboo Studio is starting for me. Takes a while. I don't know why Bamboo Studio is so slow. But here we go. Alrighty. So there's the power supply bracket. And right now I only have one filament loaded in to my carbon. Well, it shows two here, but I'm going to go ahead and hit resync. See what I get. Okay. It's showing both of them black. I don't think they are, and I know I don't have ABS. I've never quite understood this. I'm going to leave it in black, and I need to go to support, and I'm going to enable support. I'm going to leave it with normal support just for the heck of it. I don't usually use normal, but what I don't want it doing is building a tree from way out here to get into here. I'm going to go ahead and let it work on the surface. So I'll leave on build plate turned off, and I'm going to say preview. And this is like 56 minutes, and I use just all the standard stuff. So let's take a look at strength. Yeah, 2 wall loops. Yeah, it's probably good enough for this. Yeah, I don't know. I'll make it 3. What the heck? Live a little. All right, so 58 minutes total time. That looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and start the print up. There we go. So that's how I get things done pretty quick. Of course, like I said in my message to you, I've been doing this 50 years. I started out, doing this stuff, and so it's it's native to me. Let's put it that way. One of the things you should pick up from what you saw here was that when you're designing stuff like this, you always draw the part that you're working around first. Don't try to start drawing something that fits a part with no image of that part up on your screen or on your paper. It's going to get messy when you do that. The best way to do it is always start with a part. And that kind of kicks you right off. When I took my first design class, the instructor, this really good old guy, Walt Harrington, somebody said, well, where do we start? And he looked at him and he said, you start with what you have, and that's called the part you're working with. And there you have it. So you put that up, and as soon as you do that, you go, well, I need a plate down here to support it. I need that to screw it onto the wood. That's what I need. And that's just how you figure it out. Now, as I'm sitting here thinking, I'm going, if I screwed it into the apron here, over here, I could do this a little differently, and I could actually make the support go all the way around, slide it in from the end. And that actually might be better instead of going to the top and leaving this just hanging. So what I'm liable to do here is, and I think I will, I'm going to go over and catch my printer as it's running, and I'm going to go ahead and tell it to stop. And okay, the printer's stopped, and what we're going to do here is we're going to mirror these over each other, I think. We'll see how that works. So I'm going to take these, and I need to split them so I can mirror them. And the way you do that in here is I can come to the front, and I'm going to select this line tool, which is nothing big about that line tool. You can use any line tool, but I'm going to use this one because it draws both directions at once. I hold down the shift key so it forces it to horizontal, and then I grab it, and I go to perspective view, and once again, this little thingy here, this little straight line, I drag it across, and what that's done for me is it's split everything apart, up and down, but it maintained them as solids. So there's no open surfaces there. So now I'm going to grab these two, and I'm going to go to the right view, and I'm going to say mirror about, I'm going to try to find the midpoint of this, wherever that may be. Hold down the shift to get over to here. And now I got those there. Let's go ahead and make that visible. And yeah, now we've got this little problem. This is why you draw your part first. That was a real good idea, except that I need to move everything over so that everything fits in. So I can go like this, go to the right, and I'm going to leave this a millimeter clearance here so I got room. And then the only thing I got left is down here. I need to drag this out. So, okay. I want to be careful how I do this because I want to screw these two surfaces here to the apron, so I don't want this sticking out, so that'll be a problem there. So we're going to go here, and I'm going to do the same trick I did before with the draw line like this, get up here, go into my perspective. And one of the things you can do here, you can hold down the shift key and go both directions at once to split things. In that case, it didn't split them for some reason. I don't know why, so we're going to go here. Probably holding the wrong thing down. Nope, it's not wanting to split those. Sometimes when that happens in Rhino, what I find is that I need to move it just a smidgen, and I mean a smidgen, like 0.001 millimeter, which is basically nothing. I think it's a zero issue with it. Yeah, that happened, because see, now I can grab one. These are little things you learn by playing with software long enough. Okay, so I got that. So now I'm set there. I need to bring these surfaces out. So once again, Control Shift, Control Shift, Control Shift. Go to my right hand view so I can see how far I'm dragging things. All I need to do is drag these out, and they're there. So now I've created a flush surface back here. Turn this guy off because I don't want to include him in my Boolean. Select everything and Boolean it all together. And now I have it that way. I'm going to leave these holes just in case I want to use them. And you got to be intelligent here, realizing that when you go to mount this, or I go to mount it, I need to be able to get my screwdriver through this whole thing. So let's go to the front view. Yeah, we want front view, and we're going to go, not rendered. Render's pretty, but let's go to shaded. Right down here, and same thing, I'm going to do a 4 millimeter hole, and I'm also going to do a much larger hole in the front end of this, like probably 8, so I know I'll get my screwdriver through there. And need to grab this, and I'm going to move it down, oh, maybe right about here. Control C, Control V. Move this one over here, and I didn't do my Control C, Control, well, maybe I did, yeah, there they are. I want to add these to the selection, back them out a bit, and first I'm going to grab these two, and I'm going to bring them through, so that blows that hole through there. Grab these two, and do the same thing, and now I'm going to come through the back side, and there's my screw holes. And I can get rid of my curves. I don't need them anymore. By the way, I get rid of curves because anytime if I need that curve back, all I need to do is come over here and select the duplicate edges, and I can say grab that edge, and I have my two curves back. So there's no reason to be saving sketches and all this sort of stuff. It's like, yeah, okay. All right. So now we have that all set up. And maybe that's what we want to print instead. I think I like that better. And interestingly enough, we now have two methods of screwing it on. So one of them's bound to work, right? And it's all one piece, so we're going to go ahead and go to export it again. And we've already come up with the name of it, whatever, I forget already what I called it. Power supply, out it goes, okay. Minimize. Bring up this guy again, repair, delete him, drag the power supply in, and go ahead and preview. Now we'll print it. I think we got a better part now. And off it goes. So that's it. That's how I do it. I don't, as you may have noticed, I don't waste much time. I really cook right along when I'm doing this sort of thing. And that's important. You don't want to overthink some of this stuff. You just want to get at it and do it. And sometimes that's the best way. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up, and I hope you enjoy this video. Now all I got to remember is how do I put it up on YouTube, because this is way too long to download. Talk to you later.